Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me, and I keep hearing this thing about winners and losers, winners and losers. It seems to me that what we're talking about is making the American workers the winners here. Clearly, from my experience, I understand, and I don't understand why, especially my friends and colleagues who are supporters of trade, this seems like a no-brainer. Americans are selling more goods and services abroad than ever before, and every $1 million in U.S. exports supports an average of more than 5,000 jobs here at home. American exports supported more than 11.3 million U.S. jobs in 2013. 95% of the world's customers live outside of the United States, and we need to continue to help American businesses to export more, so we should be all talking about how we can export more overseas. I just give you the benefit of my experience just in my small little state of New York, something like Bruce's in Maine. Ex-Im has committed over $11 billion in total export value. That includes $7 billion in insured shipments, guarantees or dispersed loans, and an additional $4 billion in approved authorizations. There are 350 New York-based exporters that benefited from Ex-Im Bank trade facilities last year, of which, and this is very significant to me, 201 were small businesses, and 26, where I know Chairman Hochberg and Vice Chair Felton has been working very hard, were minority businesses, they were minority-owned businesses, giving them the opportunity to export. And these businesses operate in various sectors that are creating jobs here in America. We had exports in food manufacturing, machinery manufacturing, transportation services, computer and electronics, insurance, banking, finance, and the list goes on and on and on. And so we need to be exporting more, not less, and that's what the Ex-Im Bank does. So let me just ask Chairman Hochberg. First, I believe that, isn't it true that I think that Ex-Im operates more like in this case, a lender of last resorts in 1 second, correcting the market failures when private trade finances are unable or unwilling to invest in U.S. exports at competitive rates. So then when that happens, the bank of last resort, Ex-Im, if you're no longer there to help these companies move, what happens to them?
Well, thank you, Congressman. I've often said that we are Plan B. Plan A is the private sector. Plan C would be China. They'd be more than happy to fill in the gap that's the vacuum that we'd create if we're not there. So I think I was talking yesterday with an exporter in Chattanooga, Tennessee, a company that we're working with. They're going to finance an export to China. He's hired up for this thing. He said, you know, if we're not for Ex-Im, I probably would not have hired those 20 people, and I'd lay off another 20 people. 40 to 50 people, jobs are at stake on this one single order to China.
And so, it just seems, that's why I'm just baffled that some of my colleagues don't believe we need Ex-Im Bank, and they say that the private sector can do it all. But when we look at between 2008 and 2009, the private sector trade financing fell by 40%, 40%. And as of today, isn't it true, Mr. Hochberg, that many of these private banks are still not willing to extend export financing without additional guarantees from who? Ex-Im Bank. And can you also talk about the gaps, our financial crises, when we had one in 2008, but the gaps that the crises left in trade financing and how the Ex-Im Bank filled that void then and continues to fill that void now?
Well, our authorizations hit an all-time high in 2012. We financed made over $36 billion of financing over $50 billion worth of goods. We're operating at about half that level now, which is a good sign that the financial markets are recovering. The banks are more liquid. They're not liquid in every market. They certainly make it tougher for small businesses. But the good news is that when there was a crisis, we stepped in. We were like the fire truck, my analogy. And now that the fires of the recession are more behind us, we've been less active, which is a good sign that the capital markets, banking markets are recovering.